One of the two new Nightfarers introduced in Nightreign: The Forsaken Hollows is the Scholar. When I first saw him in the trailer, he looked really interesting, but it turns out he is even more interesting than I thought. The Scholar is an Albinauric, and like all the Albinaurics, his story is a sad one. Chapter 4 of his journal states that a journal entry titled "The Albinauric's Secret Elixir." I discovered a nobleman's diary in a study hidden beneath a marsh. Deciphering it affirmed the connection between the cleansing tear and the Albinaurics. The vision also pointed to a place known as the Research Annex. Could it be there that we, the Albinaurics, find our manifest desire and reclaim our fate? Now, the Scholar is specifically a first-gen male Albinauric, and despite that pretty much none of us saw that one coming from the trailer, the clues were always there. The Scholar uses a cane sword, which isn't just used for combat, but also for walking. Being a first-gen Albinauric meant that the Scholar was doomed to lose his ability to walk over time, and when his legs completely vanish, he will die. The cane helps with that. The Scholar main stat is Arcane, which is a defining characteristic for the Albinaurics. The Albinauric staff reads as follows: short staff with a blue glintstone embedded, wielded by the Albinaurics of old. The Albinaurics harbor a secret. They cast sorcery using their innate arcane. And for his remembrance skin, the Scholar gets a headband. Well, it's quite lame for the fashion, but for the lore and the story, it's quite important. This is the same headband worn by the Albinaurics of old. This signifies that at the end, the Scholar accepted his heritage and his sad fate. But why did he come to Limfeld in the first place? What is he searching for, and how did it end? Because perhaps this sad story may have an alternate ending. Let's start from the beginning. Chapter 1 talks about the Scholar's arrival to Limfeld. A journal entry titled "To Distant Limfeld." Crossing the storm-tossed seas, I reached the land of my ancestors. According to my documents, there is an academy in which the great sage Herodes passed down his knowledge, he for whom our institution is named. But what I seek above all else is the cleansing tear. There is a line concerning it found in a collection of folk tales that I read back in the institution that I cannot help but dwell upon. The cleansing tear is our desire manifest, that which will save our kind from its fate. It can be found here, in this land, I'm certain. The gate hidden in the fog has opened. I will draw the truth into the light at last. This chapter is pretty straightforward, but there is a couple of important notes here. The academy in question is of course the Academy of Rea Lucaria, and Herodes is one of its big scholars. The Herodes crown is said to be granted to scholars who engaged in nomadic study away from the academy. That's why the institution was named after Herodes. The scholar was seeking an object of myth, said to be the solution to the Albinauric's curse. It's called the cleansing tear. He believes that it's in the lands between, and therefore he goes there. A very interesting line is the one talking about the gate hidden in the fog. So we know from the base game that the Tarnished was called back by Queen Marika to cross the Sea of Fog into the lands between. But what was stopping them before, other than Marika's orders? Well, it seems that the only way to access the lands between is through a gate hidden in the fog, and if this gate is closed, then hard luck, you're not going in. Now chapter 2 explains partially how the Scholar's insight ability works. He uses a device called the Enchanted Monocle. This device allows the Scholar to look into the past through reading the memories buried in objects. This will come really handy in our quest. Chapter 3 is where the action starts with our first remembrance quest. When we begin the remembrance, we learn more about the cleansing tear. We learn that a certain noble that resided in Limfeld holds answers. Going to Limfeld, we find his diary. The diary is that of a noble who served the royal family, then joined the army. He is a knight. Using the monocle on the diary reveals this noble talking about the Albanorix's secret elixir and a place called the Research Annex. This becomes our next destination. But before leaving the hole to go there, we need a cover-up story. Lucky for us, we witness the Undertaker doing, well, that. She is feeding on the power of the night, which isn't really good, and I will explain why during the Undertaker's video. So like and subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Chapter 4 explains this situation as follows. An additional observation. A fellow warrior of the Round Table Hold was exhibiting some strange behavior. It seemed she wished to escape the notice of the others, and so, with proof of my claim in hand, I made her a proposal that should serve us both. I had been deliberating how to frame such a long disappearance from the Round Table Hold, but now I have my answer. I leave the rest to her. As we just read, the scholar took advantage of the situation and kinda blackmailed the Undertaker into helping him. She would tell the others that the scholar died and didn't reawake at the hold. He gave her his enchanted monocle leather case as proof. This would allow him to frame his disappearance. Chapter 5 is where we can start our second remembrance quest. After making a deal with the jar merchant, it accepts to show us the Great Hollow, where the Research Annex is located. Our task is simple. Search the Research Annex for the Noble and the Cleansing Tear. After quite a hard search, we find the door, but it's locked. We need to defeat a band of marauders to unlock it. After a hard fight, we kill them and unlock the door. We find a couple of notes here claiming that the Cleansing Tear was a cure to an unknown disease that struck a lot of people. The Cleansing Tear is now preserved in a crystal alongside the Noble. But upon interacting with the crystal, we learn the truth. The Cleansing Tear can't help the Albanorix. The scholar then falls into despair. Now this part is not really straightforward and quite vague, so let's explain it. We are teleported to the hold once more. Chapter 6 is titled The Truth of the Cleansing Tear and is said to be unreadable. It shows the mental state of the scholar after learning the truth. Chapter 7 reads as follows. A journal entry titled That Which I Dreamt While Asleep. In deepest darkness was I laying down, adrift in a small boat that was barely large enough to contain me. The sky above too was black as pitch, and though there was nothing at all to mark my passage, no land, no shore in sight, still I felt the rocking of the vessel as it drifted down the stream. Just then, the little boat creaked as someone stopped it dead. I tried to crane my neck to see, but my body would not move. All I saw was a hand clasped upon the vessel as it pushed me gently out. Cast hatred aside, heed not the call of the broken, and discarded. White flowers bloomed on the riverbank, and a sweet scent, not unlike honey, wafted gently. I began to wonder what became of the woman with whom I had made the bargain with. I wish I could give her the crystal I found underground to show her my appreciation. Chapter 8 talks more about the reawakening. A journal entry titled A Sentimental Reawakening at the Round Table Hold. My memories returned in vivid clarity after my reawakening at the Round Table. I have known this uncanny sensation in my frame before, this feeling that my body had been lost. Once I was able to move my arms and legs, I finally stood up. I asked the iron menial who had come to my aid. He responded by indicating the flower sitting at my bedside. Its white petals swayed gently, exuding a uniquely refined aroma. I must speak to her, it seems. There is no need to keep the bargain anymore. This part is very cryptic, as we awakened after chapter 5. So what are they talking about? And what does the dream mean? Well, it's cryptic because it's interconnected with the Undertaker's remembrance. A part of her quest is to actually go and find the scholar in the Great Hollow. We need to find the same place we went to during the scholar's remembrance, and upon doing so, we will find him trapped in the same crystal we took the cleansing tear from. So here is what happened. As we saw during chapter 5, the scholar fell to the ground in despair. When this happened, the life-draining crystals of the Great Hollow sucked him in. The scholar was dying, and chapter 7, the dream, is describing his near-death experience. But it also describes how the dregs became the Dreglord. The Undertaker instructs him to heed not the call of the broken and discard it. The scholar, almost dying from despair, drew him to the Dreglord. He would have become one of the broken and discarded souls that form the Dreglord. If we look at the Dreglord's expedition description, we can see the similarities. It reads as follows: a corpse fiend comprising countless bodies and discarded detritus. However, they are torn apart or pulverized. Their communal resentment writhes with determination, outwitting every form of annihilation. This obsessive mound of flesh, unlike any form of life ever to exist, has no obvious weakness. This would have been the scholar's fate, but lucky for him, the Undertaker stepped in at the last moment and he reawakened at the hold in chapter 8. Chapter 9 sums up the scholar's story. It reads as follows: a journal entry titled, "My Purpose." Lemveld is a sacred land under which sleep secrets and mysteries aplenty. What I have unearthed will change our understanding entirely, for I have found that which before was only known to us in books and legends. I know I will be called a madman, a liar, or worse, but I hope that those follow in my footsteps will be that much closer to the truth. Allow me to conclude my findings. Having now come to the end of this grand romance, the cleansing tear is not a manifestation of our desires. It has not the power to change our fate. It is, however, an artifact of great import. Let it be known to history. Again, this conclusion is really vague. At the end, the scholar learned that the cleansing tear isn't the answer to the Albanorec's suffering. However, it's an artifact of a great import. But why? Because it shows that there is always hope. Let me explain. The bundled paper item reads as follows: a note left by the scholar for someone, intended to summarize the events that transpired in Lemveld. Normally, he would have taken the notes back himself, but the subtle smile on his wrinkled face betrayed the impossibility of such a wish. This is his diary, left to his successor, which is the Undertaker. The description is clear. The scholar's leg, like all Albanorecs, will fade, and he will die soon. So he left his findings to the Undertaker in hopes that someone will find it and will search for another mean to end their suffering. This is where his story ends in this timeline, a rather sad story. But perhaps in another timeline, things would be different. Perhaps in another timeline, a brave Albanoric woman would travel alongside a tarnished warrior through the lands between. Together, they will fight their way up to the consecrated snowfields. There, they will find a giant Albanoric woman who is said to be hope for all Albanorics. After giving her a mysterious item called the birthing droplet, this Albanoric woman would be able to give birth. After that moment, Albanorics will not be created artificially by the hands of men. A new generation will be produced naturally through birth. And I like to think that this generation wouldn't suffer the same curse of their ancestors. I also would like to think that perhaps someone like the scholar in the original timeline had to do something with it. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and tell me what you think in the comments down below. Until next time, farewell, fellow Tarnished.